In order for you to sell $1 million of inventory, you have to be able to buy five, six, $700,000 of inventory to begin with. Process that for a second. In order for you to sell $1 million of inventory, of gross profit inventory, you have to be able to buy $500,000 to $750,000 of inventory to begin with. That's money out of your pocket that you have to purchase. If anybody ever told you that you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight with Amazon, 9 times out of 10, that is not true. It's not a passive income opportunity. It is an opportunity for you to make money, and it does compound. The more you work up front, the more money you can make over time, especially if you take part of the Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon strategy, where they're managing shipping and handling and customer service. That is definitely easier on you as a business owner. But I want to talk more about managing those expectations. Look, starting a business is not easy. Anything that you do in life that you have no experience with and you just start for the first time, you have no clue what you're doing. You don't know what the right steps are. You don't know what the right order of steps are. And you don't really have a mentor or somebody helping you along the way. Some cases, yes, you might get lucky. You might meet somebody who's willing to share those steps to reduce the overall strain that you might run into, but it's rare. And a lot of times you're going to hear horror stories where somebody found a mentor and it turns out that it was all bullshit. You know, they saw people flexing on Instagram. They saw ads that all of a sudden popped up on their social media channels, and the person's offering them, 3 steps to $5 million in the next 30 days. You have to understand that that's bullshit. But managing your expectations is very important. You have to approach this like a business, and you have to make small steps and small goals that are obtainable. You don't want to come to the table and say, in 6 months, I want to have a 7-figure, which means a multi-million-dollar business selling inventory. It's not realistic. In order for you to sell $1 million of inventory, you have to be able to buy $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 of inventory to begin with. Process that for a second. In order for you to sell $1 million of inventory, of gross profit inventory, you have to be able to buy $500,000 to $750,000 of inventory to begin with. That's money out of your pocket that you have to purchase. So set expectations that are easy to obtain. If you're going to jump into this and spend 8 hours a day on it, that's awesome. It's going to be very difficult. There's very few of you that have that opportunity. Most of you will only be able to dedicate a few hours a day. That's realistic. That doesn't put a lot of pressure on you. And if you miss a day, it's not a big deal. You can go 2 days later and make up an extra hour for the days that you missed. So setting realistic expectations is vital because it sets you up for success. It doesn't set you up for failure. I'll give you an example. If you say to yourself, I'm going to dedicate 6 hours a day every day for the next 30 days, that's not realistic. It's not realistic because you probably have some other obligations in your life. It's not realistic because it's very difficult to dedicate 6 hours a day to something that you've never done before, because you might get burned out. You might have to listen to the audio or read something or watch a video or do something multiple times to make it sink in. Hey, we're human. Especially in today's day and age, it's very easy to get distracted. I recommend to you to set aside a solid 1 hour, one solid hour, where you put your telephone on Do Not Disturb or you leave it in another room and you just sit down and dedicate 1 hour to whatever you're working on. That's realistic. That's setting a realistic goal. It's setting a realistic expectation as far as what time you can dedicate to what you're going to work on. And I want you to kind of think ahead. So if this week you're going to be learning about a store that you're going to start visiting, I want you to plan it out. I want you to make baby steps of what you're going to prioritize when you walk into that store. So in previous talks, we've spoken about your criteria. So let's use as an example. Your buying criteria should be, I want to buy anything that fast nickel or slow dime, right? So you want to come up with which one of those you're going to operate with, fast nickel or slow dime, and you want to come up with your buying criteria of, I want to make $3 a unit for every unit that I send into Amazon or ship myself to Amazon, to a buyer on Amazon. So now you have your buying criteria. Now what I want you to do is plan out how you're going to go into the store. You know, you walk into a big store doing retail arbitrage, it's completely overwhelming. I would probably say the first 50 times you walk into that store, you're not going to know where to go, because they do a very good job of moving stuff around seasonally, right? Depending on what season it is, they're moving inventory around to get it in front of you, the buyers. So I want you to plan what you're going to do and make it very simple, executable steps, things that you can actually say, I did this, I completed the task, I did what I had to do. So for example, if your goal is to walk into Target, I want you to walk into Target and walk the circumference, the perimeter of the store one time. That's an obtainable goal that you can do within that 1 hour that you've dedicated. Walk into Target and figure out where all the sections are in Target. Toy section, health and beauty, baby section, home section, furniture section. Remember, if we talked about finding one store and learning how that store works front to back, that's another easily obtainable goal that you can put into practice and do in 1 hour. Okay? Next, find 2 products that make $3 profit each and buy 5 units of each. That's also something you could do within that 1 hour. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do every one of those steps the day that you walk into the store on that day that you've dedicated 1 hour, but you could say, okay, on Wednesday, I'm going to walk the perimeter and I'm going to take notes and take a look at all the end caps on the perimeter and see where the clearance sections are. Okay? On Thursday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down where the different sections are categorically, because let's say you want to focus on toys, your only priority is going to be the toy section at Target. So you want to know toy sections are A1, A2, A3. Most stores have their aisles identified by number and letter, or letter and number, and you have to identify that for yourself so you know. So you can definitely do that on Thursday within the hour that you've allotted for that day. And then on Friday, after you've done Wednesday and Thursday's tasks, you could say on Friday, I'm going to look in the toy section for a toy that hits my criteria of a fast nickel under 60,000 rank and that makes $3 profit and is ungated. These are realistic goals. These are things and expectations that you can set for yourself that are realistic. You know, we get a lot of students that walk into a store, they go from aisle to aisle, they don't really have any rhyme or reason to what they're doing, and then they complain that they can't find anything. You know why? Because they're unorganized, unfocused, and jump around and don't really pay attention to what they're doing because they expect it to be handed to them on a silver platter, and that doesn't work. There is a statistic that says that in order for you to become an expert at something, you have to spend 10,000 hours doing it. 10,000 hours. Think about that. 10,000 hours is a shitload of time that you would have to spend. But after 10,000 hours, the statistic says that you are officially a guru. You know what that task or that thing that you're working on, to the point where you know it front to back to front. And if there's an issue, you can deal with that issue because you understand how all of it works. Think about that. You know, if you wanted to be a professional lacrosse player, it means that you would have to dedicate 10,000 hours to the sport in order for you to become a professional lacrosse player. You know, from the rudimentary skills of putting on your uniform all the way to the strategy of getting the ball into the net. the methods of passing it to your teammates and, all the rules and regulations of the sport. This is something that you have to understand, that in order for you to become an expert at e-commerce, you have to dedicate time to it. But at the same time, I want you to make baby steps so your progress feels right to you. Your brain will process these steps much better, and you won't put a lot of pressure on yourself to get things done. And if you miss a day or two because life happens, you can make that 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours up 2 days later, and no big deal. And you're not going to lose a lot of time. And if during the week you can't make your 1 hour, you can say, you know what, I wasn't able to do it this week. I'm going to go in on Saturday and spend 4 hours inside the store to make up for my week loss of time because life happened, because my 9 to 5 happened, because my child had the fever or flu, or because your mother needed to go to the hospital, or for whatever reason. Life happens. And setting realistic expectations and realistic goals are easy. They're easy. You can list 1 to 3 items on a piece of paper on a Sunday and say, I'm going to do these 3 things this week. I'm going to spend an hour on each one of them. I can prioritize which ones are the most important because you can do it. You can put a child sitting on a piece of paper and say, out of these 3 things, please pick which one is the most important, and mark the one that's the most important with a number 1 and the one that's least important with a number 3. And now you know what number 2 is because that's the one that's in the middle. These are easy baby steps. It allows you to be effective, and it allows you to be confident in the steps that you're making. But ultimately, you have to make business decisions, and you have to make those decisions for yourself and for your business, because nobody's really going to guide you 100% of the way, baby steps of what you need to do. We're going to give you high-level recommendations of how you should do it, but I can't tell you when to do it. That's something you have to decide because you organize your time. But I can tell you how to do it. And this is what I'm telling you right now. Set yourself up for success, not for failure. Don't make 50 goals. Don't make goals that are obnoxious, that don't make sense. Make goals that are rudimentary, that you can execute, that you can organize, that you can complete and mark off, and keep a diary of those goals so you can go back in 2 to 3 weeks and say, hey, I completed this. This is the outcome of what I did. And, you will have a journal for yourself so that you know how to make how your business became a success. So set yourself up for success, set those expectations accordingly, make baby steps, plan for success, and do the right thing. Don't go overboard, right? You got this.